The first press conference of the Economic Revival Committee constituted by the state government was held today in the conference hall of Tashiling Secretariat. The press conference was attended by Sonam Venchungpa, MLA of Martham Rumthek constituency, who is the chairperson of the committee, member CL Denzongpa, economic advisor and financial advisor to the Chief Minister, Dr. O.P. Dhakal, Professor of Medicine, Sikkim Manipal Institute of Medical Sciences, V.B. Pathak, Additional Chief Secretary, Finance Department, and Sonam Lepcha, Secretary of Planning and Development Department, who is also the member secretary of the committee. The other members of the committee who were not present today are Chief Economic Advisor Professor Mahendra P. Lama and Special Secretary, Commerce and Industries Department, Mrinalini Srivastava. We all know the committee was constituted on 15th of May 2020 with the main objective to study the overall impact of the lockdown due to COVID-19 pandemic on various sectors of the state's economy and to make suggestions for economic revival in active consultation with all stakeholders. Post planning and consultation, the committee will be submitting its report within 1 month of issue of notification. During the press conference, the chairperson briefly spoke about the various objectives of the committee and informed that in the month of May, several meetings with different departments were held. It was also informed that from 4th to 9th of June, discussions would be held with various stakeholders from tourism and hospitality sectors, entrepreneurs, small business owners, the business community, traders, distilleries and breweries, banks, taxi drivers associations, panchayats, telecommunication, universities and different political parties. Post-briefing sessions, various questions posed by the media were answered by the chairperson and members of the committee. Given the kind and the intensity of hit our economy has taken due to the COVID-19 pandemic, especially the tourism and hospitality sector that has been hit the hardest, it remains to be seen what kind of economic revival packages would be announced in the coming days that would help to bring our local economy back on its feet. Planning for an economic revival at a time of crisis, especially when the crisis is global in nature, it is certainly ongoing and does not seem to show any sign of stopping, is not an easy task at all. So what are the major challenges that you foresee?
The major challenges is in terms of the way people now will approach this pandemic, post-pandemic, because this is not going to end. Number one, we'll have to live with it. So in that sense, the economy also has to move on. So the economy also will go through a change in terms of you are, I think, very well aware that of industries and businesses from China are being shifted to Vietnam, and India is also expecting a lot of businesses, world businesses. The whole economic structure of the world is going to change. So in that aspect, how is a small state like Sikkim going to gain out of it? So this is the challenge for us.
So let's talk about small businesses and small and marginalized businesses. Here I'm talking about small shop owners and small vendors. Are there any kind of measures that are being planned for them?
So we are just in a sense listening to the views of the people and the stakeholders. So we will, of course, there is this 20 lakh crore credit package from the central government. So we are saying that how can we dovetail those credit facilities to the small and marginalized businessmen. So that is how we will go forward with it. To make a point very, very clear, in terms of risk which are there, now there are a lot of companies, big companies who are at a greater risk because I think if you look at Australia and almost some of the airline companies, they have completely collapsed. So but our thing is that how do we make these small industries take care of their credit side? How do we infuse credit into the business and make it viable for them? Because most of the small businesses may not be using much credit. So we have to now introduce them to a era of credit such that the business gets better.
What kind of role will the stakeholders play in the planning process?
The stakeholders have played a major role in the economic development of Sikkim. The most prominent is in terms of tourism stakeholders which are there. In terms of planning process, in the future economic revival of Sikkim, we are taking all the concerns of the stakeholders which are there, because as a committee we don't know the nitty gritty of a tourism on a broad only know the sketch of the sector, but we don't know the nitty gritty. So when we have an interaction with them, okay, there is a huge what you call information which comes in terms of how this sector can be. Even in the tourism sector, there are so many individual subsectors which are there. So they are the ones who give us the solutions also. When I earlier said that there is an answer in the question itself, so that is what I meant.